Types of investigations usually proceed in a very methodical, sometimes slow fashion. And the release of any information can only occur after we know the facts, and also making sure that the integrity of the investigation as well as public safety is not compromised in any way. The community should be very, very proud of the work done thus far by Lawrence police officers, detectives, and those in charge of the investigation. From the original officers who responded to the missing persons report and were not satisfied with simply knocking on the door, to the team of detectives and officers working almost round the clock for the last 10 days to find the answers that we all want to know about what happened. And it's because of this continued effort and commitment I want to stop a moment to tell you that our hearts go out to both the families of Mr. Sasko and Ms. McClin. As you know, this has been a difficult time for both of those families. We have been attempting to locate Ms. McClin since January 17th, when Mr. Sasko was discovered deceased at his residence located at 2905 West 26th Street. Ms. McClin was also believed to reside at the residence with Mr. Sasko. However, her whereabouts in connection to his death were unknown until recently. In addition to asking the public for assistance locating Ms. McClin, a nationwide law enforcement missing person attempt to locate was issued for her in the vehicle she was thought to be driving. In the late evening hours on Saturday, January 25th, Ms. McClin and Mr. Sasko's vehicle were located in the Everglades National Park by U.S. Park Service law enforcement rangers. Ms. McClin was found to be illegally camping in the park and was in possession of a suspected controlled substance. After a computer check, the rangers contacted the Lawrence Police Department after learning that she was being sought by us. On Sunday, January 26th, Lawrence Police detectives traveled to Florida to contact Ms. McClin, who is now in federal custody as a result of the unrelated charges brought by the Park Service law enforcement rangers. Over the course of the last 36 hours, information has been obtained that implicates Ms. McClin in the death of Mr. Sasko. An arrest warrant for first-degree murder has been issued for Ms. McClin, and detectives will seek to detain her in Florida as a result of the warrant. Now, I would like to recognize and thank some of the agencies that have helped us during the investigation. Those include the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the United States U.S. Attorney's Office in Florida, the Texas Ranger Division, the Bishop, Texas Police Department, the Miami-Dade Metro Police Department, and the Everglades National Park U.S. National Park law enforcement rangers. I'd also like to thank all those who have provided tips and information which have assisted with the investigation so far. Now, it's important to understand that everything discussed so far just constitute allegations based upon evidence and information discovered up to this point. Subsequent court proceedings will determine ultimate guilt or innocence. At this time, I'd like to ask our district attorney, Charles Branson, to make some remarks.
Thank you, Chief. Based upon the investigation and interviews that were conducted in this case, the first-degree murder warrant was requested yesterday by my office to the district court judge for the apprehension of Sarah McClin. We worked closely with the police department beginning the morning after Mr. Sasko's body was found, and we commend the effort and work done by the detectives and all those involved in trying to resolve this case. I can tell you that the agencies worked exhaustively in trying to determine exactly what had went on in this matter. It's my understanding at this time that Ms. McClin is making a first appearance on her federal charges in Florida, that the federal prosecutors are going to be dismissing those charges to be releasing Ms. McClin on our warrant. She'll be held on our warrant in Florida and turned over to state court for extradition proceedings. With the extradition proceedings, she'll have to make a decision whether to fight extradition or waive extradition and return to the state of Kansas. If she waives extradition, she could be returned to the state of Kansas within this week. If she fights extradition, it could be several months before she returns back to the state. At the time that she is returned to the state, she will be brought before a district court judge for a first appearance on her charge here, and the court process will commence in the state of Kansas. With that, questions at this
Yeah,
time?
with that, we'd entertain questions. Please try to keep it to the topic at hand. And then I don't know that we're all familiar with all of you all, so if you just give us your name, maybe an affiliation before you ask any questions. So.
Chief, I'm Monica Evans with Fox 4 News. You mentioned that Sarah is the only one charged in this case. We were told that the attack was so brutal that authorities not sure which jurisdiction thought that she could not have acted because the attack was brutal.
Well, I don't know if we use the word
Can
brutal.
you come to the microphone?
You bet. I don't know if we use the word brutal. I think it was as a result of a violent act. We still believe that she's the only one that's responsible for Mr. Sasko's death at this time.
Now, to follow up, you also have some information that there could be some gang-related activity associated with Ms. McLean, Mexican Mafia gang. Do you know anything about that?
We're not finding any of that. Thank you.
I'm Brenda Collins,
Yes.
reporting back from the case. What can you tell us about the extent of Mr. Sasko and Gonzalez's relationship? Are they romantically involved?
Some of those relationships we don't know yet. That's still part of the investigation. What we can tell you is we know that they lived in the residence together for some time leading up to this. As far as what the relationship was, beyond that, we don't know completely yet.
And a lot of the neighbors say that there was a dog that was missing as well. Sasko's, he had a dog.
Oliver,
Was
yes.
that found?
We believe Oliver is somewhere in Florida at a vet, and we're working to try to find out where it is. I believe she's currently at a federal detention center in Homestead, Florida. Yes, sir. Not right off the top of my head, sorry. Dade? Maybe?
Do you know how long she was in the park?
That I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
Sarah Shepard, Journal World. Can you just clarify the charge being
Yes, because that happened in a federal park, and it's a federal charge.
Chief Robert Town,
Yep.
Can you go back to describing the rangers spotted her in that park? Can you give us a little more detail about that?
I believe the park has hours of operation, and she was in there afterwards, and they contact her after the hours, which would mean that illegally being in the park or illegal camping, and then they went from there.
Did she say anything?
I don't know if she's made statements to the Rangers. As far I know, she said something, but I don't know the extent of what she said.
And when you said that she said something, is that relating to the drug offense or her involvement with the murder?
It could be both, but I'm not sure exactly.
Did you say what kind of drugs she was on?
No,
Are you saying
I'm not releasing that. That'd be for the park rangers to talk about.
Any word on a motive why she did this?
We're still looking at that, but in consultation with Charles, we think talking about motive is something that probably should come out in the court process rather than right now.
Brooke Langton with 6 News. Any reason as to why she was in Florida?
Don't know. Do not know the answer to that question.
Kevin Mountain, Kansas First News. Is there any indication of where she was between Kansas and Florida?
We do know that she traveled south of the United States between Texas and Florida. Obviously part of our investigation will be to try to retrace those steps and see when and where she went during the time period.
How were you able to find that out?
Just the information we've gathered over the last 10 days, witness statements, evidence, etc.
Was she alone camping? Did she have a tent out? I mean, what was the situation there?
Yeah, I believe she was in her car.
Now, Chief, if she decides not to fight, she could return this week. Share with us, if you will, some of the things that your department will be asking her.
Well,
It
obviously.
sounds like a no-brainer, but I'd like to hear.
Well, obviously, everybody wants to know why, how, when. So these are some of the things we'd be asking her during any kind of interview we have with her.
I'm assuming you've talked to the family and they've talked about her character. What has the family shared with you about her character and her possible involvement? What's her family said?
Yeah, I'm not that personally involved in what her family said about her character. I do know that both Mr. Sasko's family and Miss McLean's family were very, very concerned about the situation. I'm sure it's shocking to the family to find out that their loved one was either a victim of a homicide and also their loved one was a potential suspect in that. So, I would refer you to Dan if you want to have any more questions in regards regards to that.
And one other question, if you will, explain why you believe she acted alone.
Absolutely. We believe that Mr. Sasko was somehow subdued. We don't know how that occurred yet. We're still investigating that. The evidence at the scene suggests that she was the only one involved in the homicide. And at this point, until we develop any different information, that's what our operative theory is. Now, we have to remain open-minded, obviously. Like I said earlier, the investigation is continuing, and as more evidence and information comes in, we'll look at that and try to plug that into the overall picture of what we think happened.
Where in the house was he found?
I believe it was interior of the house, obviously, but I'm not going to identify exactly where.
Chief, can you say when Mr. Sasko's time of death was at this point? Any more cause?
That's going to be a coroner decision as far as when the death. You're asking for a cause of death. The cause of death was, we believe, an edged instrument, and I think we believe we have the murder weapon as well.
Is it an edged instrument?
Yes, ma'am. Edged instrument.
Can you elaborate?
Well, an edged instrument can be a lot of things, but I'm not going to elaborate beyond that.
Can you explain again what you mean by he was subdued?
We don't believe he was conscious at the time the crime occurred. We
Perhaps
don't.
sleeping?
We're trying to figure out how that occurred. How did that become so that he was subdued as part of the investigation?
Was he on drugs? Do we know that?
That's going to be a toxicology issue as well.
And what makes you think he was subdued?
Just evidence at the scene. I'm not going to talk
Laying
anymore.
down, perhaps, in bed?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into those details, but just enough to say that he was subdued.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Just, I appreciate everybody's interest in this story, and again, thank you for taking the time, and glad that our community and our officers and detectives have done such a great job to try to bring this to fruition.
Do you anticipate any other charges besides the first-degree murder? Is that what you're holding her on, and then maybe others later?
Brenton, if you will, please, if we can step up to the mic. Thank you.
We have not ruled out other possible charges at this time. I couldn't reveal what those are. As these cases are always, as always the situation in these cases, we're unable to talk about necessarily specifics of the case until we've had an opportunity to present that information in the courtroom. If there's additional charges to be filed, we'll look at doing that at the first appearance or at the preliminary hearing in the matter.
Does the nature of a first-degree murder charge make extradition particularly messy?
No, it really doesn't change matters a whole lot. There's a uniform extradition law from state to state. There's an interstate compact with regard to extradition. It's really a process of determining if you are, in fact, the person that the other state is seeking. If that is the case, then extradition normally goes through fairly routinely.
And why first-degree murder?
Because the evidence at the scene, based on the evidence at the scene and the interviews to date, we believe that the murder was committed with premeditation and intent.
Anything else you'd like to share?
I don't believe so at the
Any
moment.
indication she tried to leave the country?
I don't believe we have any information to that regard.
Do we know how she was financing this?
Again, that'd be information that would have to come out at a preliminary hearing.
Sir, her family indicated they believed she was a victim, but didn't elaborate. Is there anything to indicate from a law enforcement perspective that she was the victim of any type of crime?
I'm aware of the family statement. At this point in time, we have nothing through the investigation or our charging that would indicate that she was a victim in this matter.
Do we know if she has any legal representation yet?
I have had some contact from an attorney, but that's here in the state. We do not know what her current legal representation status is in Florida.
We've got two more questions, if you want. Yes.
There was a delay in identifying Sarah McClellan publicly as a suspect.
Right.
Can you speak as to why that was?
Well, absolutely. We didn't know. We did know that we were seeking her because she was living there, and perhaps may know information. Her family had reported her missing, so the prudent thing to do would not really be to call somebody a suspect until we know for sure if they were or weren't. But we did know. We wanted to try to, one, verify that she was okay, and two, get to her at some point and see what she knew maybe about the crime.
Chief, was there anyone else living at the house?
I don't believe so.
besides Sarah and Mr. Sasko?
I don't think so. Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys' attention. Sergeant McKinley here has got some handouts for you with further information, some contact info.
Thank you.
Okay.